And we're recording. Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
And when I say everyone, just Daisy.
Yeah.
Do you think anyone's listening?
Well, we're in this weird moment where we haven't actually released our first episode yet.
Yeah, so
But
we've got
obviously,
no idea.
People listening to this one have listened to the first episode, I'm assuming.
Of course. All of them. I think, do you know what? I think we've got a massive following by now. I think we've probably hit the news.
Yeah, we've had one episode out, so I'm saying, like, we must be getting good, solid 500,000 listening to this one.
At least. And especially with the adverts, I mean, they must be raking in the money. I actually had a look at the other day. Yeah, it's looking really good, actually.
Yeah,
I think we might be able to get a bigger studio now than the studio we've already got.
What's the company that's doing them again?
I just can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gone.
Yeah.
Very good, though. Hello. So we're back. We've not been cancelled yet, which is nice. Yes, we're back for episode 2 of kind of this initial series. I think we're thinking of doing about 6, aren't we?
Yeah,
6
let's
to
give
start
it a
with.
go.
Oh, that was high. Yeah.
Yes, let's give it a go.
Oh, you sound like a very dodgy uncle at a wedding.
That's my vibe.
That is the vibe.
It's not my vibe.
It is his vibe.
Scratch that.
Yes, I think we're thinking of doing about 6. So this is number 2, and see kind of how
number
we
2.
go after then.
Sorry.
You're such a child. Jesus. And also, while we're here, we've got our logo now, which is all kind of done, and we'll be ready for the first episode. But we're on the second.
I did it.
Funny? No, you didn't. Yeah, you did do it.
I did it, but with instruction.
Yes, with strict instruction from myself, because I have all the ideas. I just make someone else do it. I think that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
Really.
Unless the logo's shit, then Callum did it.
Yeah, fair enough. But no, so I feel like I need to, for people that don't know me who are listening to this, I think we need to maybe just clarify why I look like a sheep.
Oh, in the logo.
Yeah, in the logo, because this one's just a bit odd.
I didn't start this. This was before meeting me that people called you sheep, didn't they?
Yeah, so I've been called Sheep Boy for a long time, and it's mainly because my hair. I grew my hair out for a role when I was younger, when I was about 16, and I never had curly hair before this. This is top quality podcasting, by the way, talking about my hair. Anyway, I then grew my hair out, and it got very curly. And then since then, I've been known as Sheep Boy. And there we go. And that's people like to touch my hair, and that's about the closest I get to any kind of human interaction.
But I remember immediately latching onto that when I met you. Probably like
far
before
too
we were
soon.
like too soon. I was just like, yeah, Sheep Boy, haha.
Well, it was really weird.
Sheepy hair.
I went to university, and then people started calling me Sheep Boy even then, and I was
separately
like,
to like.
Yeah, people that didn't know me before,
Oh, right.
People that never knew me, and I was like, that's so weird. And then I said, by the way, I said to one of my friends, I was like, why do you call me Sheep Boy? And I'm like, well, it's on your Instagram. I was like, that's ruined it. I just thought I was synonymously Sheep Boy. But no, there we go. But yeah, anyway, how you been?
I've been good, thank you. And I need to, like, once I've talked about myself,
as you always will.
do, I need to ask you what you do, because I'm listening back to it, because you're hosting, like, you were like just throwing so many questions at you, and like, I'm not quite used to this yet, and I was just answering them, and I listened back, I was like, I did not ask that man once what he was doing. I'm such a bad.
Did. I mean, you are bad. You're terrible. Terrible friend, terrible
It's 'cause
person.
I don't really care.
No, you don't, do you?
No.
About me, about anyone.
I'm good, thank you. Since we last recorded podcast, I have been on a screen acting course at City Academy.
Where?
City Academy in London.
Oh, in London.
I feel like they're paying us here, but they're not. No, they're great.
Maybe they will.
I am a big advocate of people not going to drama or school or university. I'm not saying no. Sorry, that sounds wrong. I'm not saying don't go. I'm saying I'm a big supporter of people that like it's not for them, and it certainly wasn't for me. So this is a nice kind of way of perking up my kind of. That sounds weird. My way of like building up my knowledge and experience and my skills in terms of acting and creative things without going to uni. And I'm doing a lot of kind of courses at the moment. I'm doing like online screenwriting courses I'm a big believer in kind of just getting out there and making and doing your own stuff and kind of finding your own way. And I've been really enjoying doing the screen acting course. It was like a 5-day intensive. It was run by Scarlett Viray, or Scarlett Alice Johnson. She has been in like BBC Three's Pram Face and EastEnders, Good Karma Hospital. But she's just the most amazing teacher, and it was brilliant. It was really good.
Amazing.
So I've been doing that, and
Awesome. I think it's, you know what? I think it's I talk about you to people, which I hate to admit to you, quite a lot, to be fair, because I think you're a really good example of an alternate route of becoming a creative and getting there. And because I think so much, especially when we were at college, it's so much ingrained into you that you must go to, well, first of all, drama school. Like, university is very much snubbed. Like, people don't like to admit it, but it is. University is incredibly snubbed. Like, when I said to people I was going to university, that was very snubbed, that I wasn't waiting and going to drama school. And
why are you not going to RADA, darling?
Yeah, and I think that there are so many different ways to do it. And yes, there are absolutely advantages to doing that. And but I just think, I just think there are so many different ways of doing it. It's not a linear path. And I think what I say to people when I talk about you is that you've not gone down that kind of traditional path, but you're still very successful. You're still very creative. You did do a bit of obviously you started off doing an apprenticeship, didn't you?
I did an apprenticeship in technical theatre, so it wasn't even performance. It wasn't a creative. It wasn't a creative learning. And funnily enough, I've had 2 acting teachers on these courses. I've been one, Scarlett Viray, I've just mentioned. Second, Deobia Operai, who is in Sex Education. He plays Eric's dad. He was in Game of Thrones as well, with Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, wow.
Again, both of those did not go to drama school, did not go to uni. They kind of just found their career kind of that way. And it's been really helpful talking to them, because I can't mention which theatre it is yet until tickets go online, but I've got an upcoming one-person show in London, and that's kind of like my point for like preparing for like agents and casting directors and stuff to kind of come along and see that. And so I'm hoping that'll be a good next step for me. So just it's been really, really helpful and nice to have that kind of like flexible way of learning.
Yeah, I think it's great, because I don't think that university or drama school or whatever is for everyone. I think it's very kind of structured, and you're there for 3 years or sometimes 4, and that's for some people, but it's not for everyone. And it's this really weird shift in that however many years ago, kind of very few people went to university, and you only went to university if you were doing specific things like if you were going to be a vet or a doctor and dentist, those kind of mainly the medical profession or law or anything like that. And even then, you would have to come from like a well-to-do, well-off family.
Yeah.
But now it's gone the complete opposite direction, and now it's like everyone needs to go to university, and you just don't. And I think, I just think it's nice for people to know that there are different options, and that you can still get to the same end goal just through a slightly different route.
And I'd have absolutely loved, like I would have enjoyed it, 100%. But I just itch too much to get on. It's the going away for 3 years, and I don't know why. Of course, it's not progressing. Of course, it's entirely progressing. You are learning new things, and you're being taught, and it's like it's a big part in your life where you meet loads of people. But for me, I don't know. I just itch too much to kind of just get out into the world.
Yeah,
I think. But yeah, so that's what I've been doing. I've been doing a film acting course in London, and there's been a 2-week gap. So the first week I was just ill in bed, and the second week I was doing film acting course. So what have you been up to?
You're actually going to ask me what I'm up to?
And you've got some news to share.
I do have some news to share. So by the time this goes out, it'll be all official and put to paper, and I'll put it online on my Instagram and stuff. So I now have an agent, which is very exciting. It's kind of quite a big milestone for me and for anyone who kind of becomes an actor. So it's really, really exciting. I was looking for quite a while, and I've very lucky in that our very good friend and someone that we work with, Jack Fisher, he recommended me his agent. And I kind of looked at other agencies, but in the end, this was kind of the best option for me at this stage.
So it's the same agency as Jack?
Yeah, same agency as Jack, yeah.
Same specific agent as well?
Yeah, same agent, yeah, Abby. It's... Do you know what? I need to check now exactly what the agency is so that I can give her a little plug. So she's currently in India at the moment doing some stuff. But when she comes back, we'll put pen to paper. So that's really kind of exciting for me. And I absolutely know. I think you've got to be a real realist with it. And I know that jobs aren't going to come around straight away. And I know that from experience of my friends who have already got agents. So I think I'm going into that, and I generally go into all of this in the industry with a very kind of realist head on, and I know what it's going to be. I know people aren't going to trip over me to give me work, and that I'm going to have to look for my own work as well, and that she's not going to find me everything, and I'm not even going to get everything that she gives me. So I'm going into it kind of in that way. So I'm really, really excited to properly get going with her and see what we can do.
That is great news. Congratulations.
It is very good news. Thank you very much. But how was that, listening to someone else talk about themselves? Was that painful?
No, it was very interesting.
He's lying.
Back to me.
But I tell you what, before we move on, so that's all very good. But more so, even more exciting, is that I rediscovered one of my great loves the other day. It's one of the most exhilarating things I think I have ever done or will ever do, and something that I particularly did when I was a child, and I rediscovered it, is trolley drifting.
Trolley drifting.
Trolley drifting. Now, you'll know what I'm talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You will when I talk about it. So I went into a shop with my mum called Macro, which is like a big wholesaler. So a massive building with like really large lanes, like in between the shelves, and you get a trolley, and they're perfect trolleys because they've got the bits underneath where you can put your feet on, so you push off and you just drift around, and it was absolutely incredible. I was drifting around the shop. I looked like I'm 23, but I look like a 5-year-old. It was absolutely incredible. And I did that thing where you just look around and see if there's anyone looking, and then you go, and then you see someone, and you just style it out, and you just start walking. It was brilliant fun. I'd say that's kind of pretty much near the top, and maybe just below is running when you're drunk.
Right, yeah.
Because that's also incredible. Like, I don't know if you'd agree with me, but it's like, if you've ever watched Star Wars, going into light speed.
Oh, I know. And
like, things like just little dots just fly past you, and you feel like you're running faster than Usain Bolt. It's absolutely
I don't even remember it happening. It's just like A to B, boom,
yeah,
done.
It's amazing.
I'm like, wow. Because I'm quite fast, like, normally.
You got very long limbs.
I've got very long limbs.
Yeah.
I'm basically all leg and a little bit of torso. It's very strange. All my height is just... I'm very disproportionate.
I'll tell you what, if you were single, that'd be great to put on your Tinder. I'm all leg.
I'm like a frog, basically. I'm a human frog. I can light speed travel when I'm drunk. It's the same speed, it's just not for me.
Like, all I want to do is I want someone to film me while I'm doing it, just to see what I actually
and it'd be like, actually, that's really slow. I'm just like meandering all over.
But it's incredible. It's the best. It's my favourite part of like going out and having a drink. And it's not like I'm really drunk. It's like if I'm going out for a few pints with my friends, and you're not like paralytic, but you feel warm. It's that warm feeling, and you just feel like a bit rubbery. Yeah.
I once knocked myself out from running too fast.
Right. Do tell.
I was at the park with my mates. This makes it sound like I was really young. I was 16. Which is really young, but not to be hanging out at a park with your mates and getting yourself knocked out in a race. And two of my friends, they just started a race without me.
Mm-hmm.
And me being like really quick and having issues with my pride, I was like, they didn't include me, but I'm going to win the race anyway. And so I like bolted faster than I've ever run before. And the fence was the kind of finishing point. And I finished by running directly into the pole part of the fence and blacked out for a few seconds. Came to, bleeding profusely from my head. And I've still got a scar on my eyebrow.
Why
here
have I never
today.
heard that before? Because we have these chats all the time. Like I'm looking. Me and Chris are looking at some point and doing an open mic night, like going and doing like for you doing a bit of maybe singing, like
Yeah.
comedy singing stuff. For me doing a bit of stand up comedy, and
Oh,
all of my stuff.
Sorry, I'm actually going to
gonna
burst your
interject.
bubble a little
There
bit.
we
Here.
go. You haven't
I'm
already.
going tomorrow
Why have you not told me this?
because Daisy told me this when I got back from London the other day. She was like,
mate.
"There's an open mic. Well, you can still go. Do you want to go tomorrow?
I don't know if I'm around or not. Oh,
Tomorrow night.
man. Oh, think about it.
I'm sorry, I feel like I've crushed you there.
You have crushed me.
But I still don't know that I want to do it.
Ooh.
but-
Where you going? Where you going?
Voodoo's.
Right.
But I think they are just music. I don't know if they do
Oh, really? Yeah, because Daisy was saying about
comedy.
Hmm.
I don't know that they do comedy.
Well, if not, I'll look somewhere else. But anyway,
I
yeah.
still
So,
want to go with you, Callum. I feel bad now.
yeah, you terrible man. But anyway, yeah. So we're looking at. Well, I say now, I'm looking,
We're
at doing some starting a bit of stand-up comedy at some point.
Well, I'm not. I'm not doing stand-up.
No, not you. No. You're doing like comedy songs and stuff.
Yeah,
aren't
yeah.
you? So it's slightly different. The lowest form of comedy. Anyway, I've been putting kind of material together, and my stuff is kind of just generally like how my life ends up being tragic. I just really funny, tragic things happen to me, and we always talk about this. And you always say, "Oh, you got so many stories. Nothing tragic's happened to me." Why did you never tell me that one? Because that's tragic. That is
That's
tragic.
I won.
All right, Dennis.
I won the race. There was no tragedy involved.
That's brilliant, though.
I'm peeking
stealing
my
that.
mic here. I can see it. I'm going to turn my gain down a little bit.
Ooh,
Wow.
Gloria Gaynor.
Wow. Yeah, no. I guess that's tragic a little bit.
I think so.
I just don't think. Honestly, we were on tour and we went to Colchester, which is about a 2-hour drive back from where we live. I don't live with Callum, as in we live in the same area of the world.
Yet.
He's locked the doors. No, and we drove back, and our actor friend Jack was in the back, and he was like, "All right, lads, I'm going to sleep." So he went to sleep. That was a really bad Jack impression.
I think it's quite good, actually. I think I appreciate that.
So he went to sleep, and we just chatted, and Callum just shared like harrowing story after story of just the lowest points in. At each one you told me, I was like, "That's the lowest point in your life," and then it just got lower and lower, and it, like really like grim stuff, man. And then you just turned to me like, "Oh, your turn," and I was like, "I have nothing to share with you
You
like
could have
that."
had that.
That's not. But that doesn't even scratch the surface of like
No.
the tragedy of your life.
I've got like
no offense.
notes, like pages and pages of notes,
Yeah.
and they're not like horrible. Just so they're not like horrible things. Like I've not had horrible things happen to me. Like I'm fine, but just really funny, embarrassing things that a lot of the time are self-inflicted by accident. I'm just a very clumsy man, and just I must have some bad juju or something, bad luck.
Well,
Something.
Daisy says that luck's genetic, that you're genetically predisposed to have bad luck.
Well,
I don't know what the evolutionary benefit of that is. That might be complete
There's none.
bullshit. But
Well, I believe my dad was born on Friday the 13th.
Ooh.
So there you go.
it was brewing.
That's a whole
Brewing
film idea
before you
right
were
there,
born.
actually.
I was born on Friday the 13th, and now it's given me powers.
Look at me.
I shit my pants wherever I go.
I was worried then that you were going to release one of the stories.
Oh, am I not allowed to say these? Can I say the 2 words that sum up all of your stories? Can I say
Yeah,
that?
right. Yeah.
I won't go into too many details because I want you to come see Callum's show whenever it happens. But the 2 words meat slop can sum up all of your stories. Amazingly, it's like
It's
it
really
sums
weird.
them all up. And I still believe it should be the title of your show, but the jury's out on that one, isn't it? Meat slop.
No spaghetti.
Meat slop, no spaghetti.
Which, it sounds so random, but it'll all make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
you've got an agent,
Yes.
which is great.
Go back to
That
that.
is really
Yeah.
cool.
Got an agent. That very very nicely done. Yeah. So that's very exciting. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. See what happens there.
Cool.
So yeah, I think this is a good time to have a quick break, and then we're going to talk about after the advert break about the recommendations that we've watched from last week and Callum's confession as well.
Yeah, I didn't watch that one. I'm so sorry.
Well, how about in the break you watch it or you pretend to watch it, and then we'll go.
Or was I not meant to say I hadn't watched it? Do we do the intro?
Oh, we haven't done the intro.
We haven't done the intro.
No.
You don't like the intro because it's me sat with a guitar being a prick.
No. I'm absolutely fine. You being talented, I'm absolutely fine with that. Absolutely.
Oh,
fine.
come on! This isn't like the best song ever, is it? It's me like, I do that.
It's great. Okay, and now for the intro, it's Christopher Satan Clark.
Chris and Callum's Film Club, they're sitting on some chairs, they're chatting shit about films, but who really cares? See you after the break, folks!
Are you struggling to hear people? I said, are you struggling to hear people? Well, if you are, then get yourself down to your local branch of wax removers. Oh, I loved wax removers. Yeah, they took it all out. There was enough in there to make a candle. Wax removers will take the wax free of tax.
Right, we're recording again. I just chuck you straight into these, don't I?
Yeah.
I'm sat here with a laptop and I just like, go.
I'm loving it.
And Callum, we're recording. Deal with it.
Good. And we're back.
Yeah.
So I realised I never said the name of my agency in the last segment. So that's good. So I've looked that up.
She's listened already and you're fired.
Gone. Contract. Done. So it's Abby and it's AKP Management. So yeah, I would say go with that team, but don't, because I want all the jobs that she's finding.
If you're a white 23-year-old man with some nice curly hair, apply.
There's not many of us about. Do you know, I had a really... Some of the other agents...
White men?
No. Very few.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's what's going to cancel us. I'm in the minority. Anyway.
Dyslexic.
Oh, yeah, I'm dyspraxic as well, just to add to the IBS from last week. I'm also dyspraxic.
Yeah.
And look like
Maybe
a sheep.
this luck thing is true.
It's not good, is it? What do you mean? No, it's good. It's a good thing to be dyspraxic, you horrible man. It's given. Do you know what? Actually, no, I'm lying. There's no benefit to it whatsoever.
You looked really angry then. You were like, it was like you were going to throw a punch at me. You'd have missed. But
Oh, good. No, I was speaking to some agents, and one of them said to me, "Oh, was it? No,
sorry,
I think
did I just spit right in your face?
No, you didn't. No.
Sorry.
I think it might have been Abby actually. She and a few others. They were like, "Oh, you got a really good look for commercials." I was like, "Oh, that's good." And they also said, "Oh, also, you'd be really good for period dramas because you've got a very wide face." So apparently, I've got a wide face.
Wide face.
Yeah. Do I have a wide face, Chris?
Yeah. Sorry,
Thank
I'll
you.
think about that a bit more. I guess it could be. Yeah, you do have a wide face.
Oh, cheers. Thank
It's
you.
not a bad thing. It's
No.
It will look striking on camera.
Striking.
On camera.
Thank you.
I don't know where I was going with that. I just started saying things.
And do you know what? Before we move on, actually, I was going to say about agents. Anyone that might be looking for an agent at the moment, I think what the big thing that I found was that you've got to look. And I spoke to the agent that I've now got. You've got to look around everyone. You've got to really look at your options and don't jump too early. Have a good look around and see. I think a lot of the time, same thing if you're going into drama schools or with jobs in general, is that you'll think, okay, well, it's all about what they kind of see in me, whether they want me, but it's also if you want them.
Yeah,
especially with an agent, it's got to be such a two-way thing. So they've got to be right for you. They've really got to be right for you, and it's all about obviously the boring stuff like the percentages and contract length and stuff like that. And especially really weird things like some agents will. Do you know what? I think a lot of agents do this, but I just find it a really weird thing where some agents will charge even if you find the job.
Yeah, I was talking to
weird.
my film tutor about that, and I was kind of coming at it from a perspective where I couldn't really comprehend that. But he said, but they're still working for you all the time. They're like they're still going out. They're still like meeting with casting directors. They're still like networking for you and doing stuff for you. So it's just a communication thing. I get just be like, I'm doing this. What do you think? And it's like 50 quid.
Mm.
Then yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm in the process of looking for one. Well, not really. I'm getting ready to look for one.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't want to. I'm wanting to invite people to a performance, and I feel like I'm waiting to like a point where I know that my work is going to be good and polished and ready.
Well, I'd say don't do that because you'll be waiting forever.
But
Oh no, that wasn't being horrible. No, I think I think it's a really good thing to invite them to performances. So if anyone's looking for a quite lanky man that's moderately talented, quite creative, he has good intentions, then
write the theme tune, sing the theme tune.
Yeah. Then don't choose Chris. Choose someone else. No, I think good luck. I think it's really interesting actually to kind of look into the world and kind of see what it's all about. I think there's so much kind of mystery shrouded around agents and stuff like that. But do you know what? The meetings that I did have with people, they're really nice. Certainly the ones I chatted with anyway.
Yeah.
They're just people, just really lovely people that want to find you jobs.
Yeah. No, I'm excited to dive into that world.
Awesome.
When I'm ready.
Well, should we get on with the first bit of the meat of today's episode?
Yeah, sorry, we've chatted quite a lot, but I still think that it's interesting to those out there that are wanting to get into the industry.
Yeah, I mean,
like us.
Yeah, I mean, even if you don't agree, we think it's interesting, so that's all that matters.
And we're the ones with the microphones, so
exactly.
Just sit there and deal with it, mate.
Yeah, or you
Skip
do your
ahead.
own podcast. So
please listen to us and tell your friends.
Please. And if you can get us some, like brand deals, that'd be really nice.
I thought you've got loads of brand deals lined up.
Oh yeah, but I just want more.
Yeah, a bit more.
Just like more money. I've actually got a
Legitimate
suitcase full of money here. Although I probably shouldn't say that. It's all kosher. It's fine. It's all going for the
Dibs.
accounts. You're not getting any of it.
No, dibs works for stuff like that.
Right.
Dibs.
Okay, cool, fine. Sounds fair. So let's talk about some stuff. So recommendations from last week. Shall we do? Let's talk about the recommendation I gave you first.
Yeah, I
told Chris to look at Men. Did you
he
do
did,
it?
and as soon as you left, I went on my laptop and I looked up Men, and then the next day I watched the film Men.
I was waiting for how you were going to do the joke. Yeah, nicely done. Done.
Men by Alex Garland, and I loved it. That's absolutely my kind of film.
It's the wrong thing to say, but good.
No, I loved it. I love
good.
films like that. It's so it's I don't know. It's just so gripping, and like every little element is used to kind of create fear. And I love how there's such a beautiful sequence where she goes into a tunnel and just does all these kind of weird echoey sounds, and then that just gets layered and built into the soundtrack throughout the rest of the film. It's so good. I love the choice that Rory Kinnear plays every man in the film apart from her.
Spoilers, by the way, if anyone's going to watch it.
I'm not saying too much though.
No, you're not saying too much.
But yeah.
But I think probably good.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to
We'll
just
say
to give
I
spoilers.
might slip out spoiler because
Exactly.
Because I've got the microphone. No, it was really good, and I think this is like a good debate topic we could have at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those films where I did Google a lot of like what it was about and the symbolism behind it, and I always love doing that with a film, and it helps me like appreciate it and understand it a bit more. But it would be a good debate to have about whether a film should leave you needing to go and look up stuff and try and interpret more, or whether it should just entertain you and you should understand everything that happens in it. I think that would be a good debate to have. Anyway, it is one of those films where you're left wondering a lot of things. You're left kind of it tells the story heavily through metaphor, and there's a lot of kind of themes of like religion and kind of patriarchy within religion. And guilt and how kind of women are treated, and how you know, if there's like something bad happens in a relationship, it always seems to be perceived as the woman's fault. I think that was a lot of what was trying to be told in the film. And it was written and directed by Alex Garland, who did not Deus Ex Machina, just Ex Machina.
Yeah.
The film Ex Machina, which is brilliant. Yeah, he's got a very intense style of storytelling, and I really enjoyed it. I just, I loved it. Really good film.
I'm glad. I did think that it'd be your kind of thing, because it's so weird. I don't even know if I'd use the word enjoyed. I finished it and I was like, I mean, I did look up stuff, and luckily I went to go and see it with my friends who we're all film fans.
Yeah.
So that was nice to kind of debate it afterwards. Yeah, it really messes with your head, and there's so much going on, and it's quite graphic towards the end, isn't it?
Oh
Like,
yeah, it's really
graphic. I'd really like to know actually how they did it. Some of that stuff at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. No, I just love low budget films. I think I just love. Yeah. It's
I mean,
good.
saying low budget, I thought they did a really good. Obviously, it's not a spoiler, but Rory Kinnear obviously plays all of the men in the film, other than Jesse Buckley's character's partner. And he plays a small child, a small boy.
Yeah.
I thought there's a bit of an uncanny valley about it, but I thought they did that for a small budget film really well.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought that was done better than like Disney do Luke Skywalker, some of the de-aging stuff they do there.
Yeah.
I think that was done really
I say
well.
small budget. It still would have had like a big budget because it's Alex Garland. But as in in terms of normal
And
Hollywood
it's
cinema.
A24, is it?
A24. I think they're one of the strongest production companies out there. There's so many of their films are just brilliant.
Yeah.
They seem to be, it's like a good stamp of approval. No, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, very, very gritty and very gory. And just quite a harrowing film. I did enjoy it. I love films like that. I love to be just. I watched so many dark films when I was little, but I'm just so not affected by them now. I just enjoy the storytelling, and I think horror is. I think mainstream horror can so easily be very samey, and I know when all the jump scares are coming and stuff like that. And so to find, I love horror films that just make you scared in a different way than normal.
And I think especially I found with that film, is not knowing. I genuinely had no idea what was coming next, and I think that's kind of the complete opposite of what we were talking about in the last episode about kind of the superhero films, and especially kind of MCU and stuff. And quite often you can kind of predict what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's so nice with a film like Men and a lot of independent films. You have no idea what's going on. It really, this film really caught me off guard, and I was quite lucky, I think, in the fact that I went into the film. I was just told. I just went with my friends, and we just said, "Okay, we're just going to go and see the film." I didn't watch any trailers or anything before. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I don't do that very often nowadays. Obviously, there's a trailer. There's about 1 million trailers for every film, and it's really nice to go in blind and just experience it as I think you're really supposed to experience films.
Yeah.
And it was a lot, and assault on the senses, I think I'd say, especially with the musical score.
Yeah. That
amazing.
score was beautiful. Yeah. No, really strong. Really strong. Loved it.
Amazing.
Loved it. What did you think of my favourite film, Sightseers?
Well, the fact that it's your favourite film says so much. I feel like I've never understood you more than I have after watching this film.
My humour,
I
writing.
understand your writing. No, I do. I understand your humour and specifically your writing far better than I ever have before.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, we're doing little plug. We've been doing a play. We toured it last October, Last Shot and Confess, and we're touring it again this March. I genuinely feel better equipped now to do those plays now that I've watched this film.
Yeah.
Because I get
kind of understand where I'm coming from.
and I did before, but more so now. And think so is the straightness with which it's played.
Yeah.
This film is why I understand.
It's
what
the
you're doing right now.
mundanity of the extreme situation.
It's so mundane. Like it's just. And actually, before I properly get into this, I just wanted to a quick word on Men before I properly get into this.
Of course, sorry, yeah.
Is because I don't think we really said it, but Jessie Buckley's performance in Men was incredible.
Yeah.
She just I wouldn't say I think it's unfair to say that she carried the film, because the film didn't need carrying, and obviously Rory Kinnear was fantastic, but she was just centre to all of it, and her just everything. It was absolutely incredible, and a flawless performance. And I didn't see my biggest bugbear is where you can see the actor behind the character, and I couldn't see it at all. It was just amazing.
I don't know if I'm recommending it to you today, but she's in a great film called I'm Thinking of Ending Things. I mentioned it last podcast, but it's again, she's getting cast in like a lot of like weird head spinny kind of films, and I love. If I was a film actor, I'd love to be cast in all those films.
Yeah.
Just stuff that makes your head spin.
I think you'd probably, I mean, obviously you'd prefer the money of the bigger budget films and stuff like that, but I think isn't that amazing as an actor to be able to do films like that people really actually don't just consume like everything else, but genuinely enjoy and make you feel like, how amazing is that?
Yeah. I didn't realise she was Irish. Oh, she might not be.
She?
Well, she's Irish in in Men, but she might not be Irish. She had an Irish accent in Men.
Do you know, I forgot that. I didn't even realise that. Oh wow.
But
Just wanted to say that because I think she is, and Rory Kinnear is fantastic in everything that he does in that. But she is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
I want to look out for everything that she's in now. Right. So yes, Sightseers. Let me just have a look at what I've put here. So what I loved about this is it starts off, and we were speaking about this last time, in that we both love things which you think are one thing and then there's something totally different. And this film epitomises that more than anything I've ever seen. Like, at the start, it's a straight comedy.
Yeah.
Like, it's basically a straight comedy. And the tone is set right from the beginning, where the opening credits are going, and all you hear is just this weird moaning. And it's the mum moaning about the dead dog, isn't it? Yeah. And from then on, I was like, this is going to be such a weird film.
So weird.
But it's so, like, there's so many, I've written down some just funny lines, because so much
I was going to just talk to you about that. Daisy and I quoted, because the main male character's called Chris.
Yeah.
We have so many silly quotes from it all the time. I'm interested to see what you've written down.
It's just some of my favourites are, and quite a lot of them are quite close to the beginning, when I still thought it was like a straight comedy. So remind me of the female character's name.
Tina.
Oh, she's brilliant. I need to talk about her. She's brilliant. She says to her mum, she says, I think her mum says, "Oh, who am I gonna? I've got no friends," or whatever it is. And Tina goes, "I'm your friend," and her mum goes, "You're not a friend, you're a relative." And from then I was like, yeah, I'm hooked. Because that's so funny.
It's the Brummie accent as well.
Yeah. You're not a friend, you're a relative. And what else is it? I was, Tina goes, they're about to leave so a bit of context. Basically, they go on a caravan holiday. Chris takes Tina on the caravan holiday, and it turns out Chris isn't quite who Tina thought he was. And how much can I say without spoiling it?
It's the premise of the film. He starts to murder.
He starts to murder people that annoy him. Like, anyone that like particularly gets his goat, he will. And it's that weird dark side of the brain thing that I think a lot of people have that they never admit. But this film just outwardly says, I'm going to kill him.
And so I could say Tina's basically the main character. It's her kind of like journey of like, oh, I like this man, but he's a killer, and it's just because they're so dysfunctional. It's their kind of. It's like a really mundane British Bonnie and Clyde, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah. And this quote. So they're about to leave on the caravan holiday, and she goes, "I don't think I could cope without potpourri, Chris." What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And there's so many.
Can I fire some off though?
Yeah, give me some.
So we always get, show me your world, Chris. I thought I'd start with Crouch Tram Museum. It's just stuff like that. And then it's when Daisy my partner ever like helps me come up with an idea, she's like, "I'm musing, Chris. I'm musing. I'm your muse." And he's not a person, Tina. He's a Daily Mail reader. I just love it. So
Another
it's
one of my
such a
favourite is,
quotable film.
every time I found my Everest, someone shits on it. And Tina goes, I wouldn't shit on you, Chris, unless you asked me to.
It's honestly, it's so fun.
It's so quotable.
So it's directed by Ben Wheatley, who is one of my favourite directors. He directed, he does more horror actually than comedy.
Because he did Kill List, didn't he?
He did Kill List,
Yeah.
which is uber dark. He did a great film which was produced by Martin Scorsese called Free Fire, which the whole film is a shootout in a warehouse in the 70s. Got a great cast. It's got Armie Hammer. It's got oh, who else is in it? Oh, it's gone from my head. But there's loads of great people in it. And he did an adaptation of J.G. Ballard's High Rise with Tom Hiddleston, which was really good. So he does really head spinny, like dark films, which this is as well. But it's written by Alice Lowe and Steve Oram, who play the two main characters. So they've obviously got a bit more of a kind of comedy take on it, and just that combination, I think, of like a really dark director with some like a really funny script, it just creates something amazing. Alice Lowe is brilliant. She's also written and directed a film called Prevenge, which is she has a baby, and she's pregnant, and the baby like tells her to kill people. And she like, it's so good. It's so good. She like communicates with it, and it's like telling her to kill people. Again, uber low budget. Her like normal kind of writing of just like super dark, really violent stuff.
She plays Tina. Is that Tina? No.
Tina, yeah.
Yeah.
And so she wrote both of these films.
Yeah, because what I found out about it was that they, both her and who plays Chris?
Steve Oram.
And Steve Oram. They both originally did this as like a sketch thing, as a theatre show, as a play.
Did they?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it was a 2-person play. They did it on stage, but with the premise just being about these mundane people talking about stories of killing people. And then obviously it was taken. The director and some other people picked it up, and he put his own kind of spin on it. I just love that. I love the things that go from theatre to film. But It was really good, and I think the fact that it had those comedy bits in it meant that I really did enjoy it.
Yeah,
like, it was a brilliant film. It's kind of so many messages and a lot of deeper meaning, but it also gives you that that also lower level of enjoyment. You can just enjoy it on a certain level. If you don't want to appreciate everything else, you can just enjoy it from the comedy element.
It's certainly the most accessible of Ben Wheatley's films.
I think so. And I think, as I say, so much of it feels like a comedy, and then towards the end, even with the murdering, like so much of that is played for comedy. Yeah. But then obviously it gets towards the end, and it gets nasty. Like it's particularly when. How much can we say without spoiling it? Okay, I'm going to say it. Okay, spoilers are going to come now. If you don't want to hear about it, just fast forward a bit. So it gets to the point where Tina starts to join in.
Yeah.
Because she thinks that's what Chris wants.
Yeah.
And again, it's kind of that comment on kind of women trying to change themselves for men and trying to be what their men want. And in her case, she's like, well, I'm going to have to start murdering then.
Yeah.
And she murders someone who's annoyed her, like Chris does. And then, which is kind of it. That bit isn't played for comedy. It's quite harrowing. Yeah. But then she then comes into the caravan later and is trying to kind of get it on with him. And then he goes, no, it's not the same. You're not qualified.
Not qualified, Tina.
You do a great impression, by the way. It gets really nasty towards the end. Yeah. And it does make you think a lot, really.
But oh my God, watch it! It's so it's
absolutely
it's so underrated as a film. It's my favourite film. I think a lot of my writing, I can definitely a lot of the inspirations come from here. Absolutely. Just that kind of like, I've written a few things in theatre, and it's just like it's always like a really dark situation, but with just that kind of that mundane, like you in Confess, the character you play in Confess, like just talking about bourbons while all this kind of like murders get
But I love that, and I feel like when, especially in this film, when things then do start to get darker, you're so much more invested, because that's my general kind of thought with anything in entertainment, and is that you're far more invested in a character once you've laughed with them.
Yes.
I like to laugh with them before I cry with them, or before I empathise or anything like that. That's how I connect to characters.
Which I am interested to talk about in our main debate today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So,
so Sightseers, I think I can absolutely see why it's your favourite film, and I think it's moulded a lot of you.
and this is the kind of shit I was watching when I was 14,
which is
15.
mad.
But this is like these films were helping shape me as a creative, like in terms of the ideas I was having and where I wanted to take it. And an underlying theme for me in this episode is going to be about that kind of ultra low budget just way of like getting into the industry, where you just go, fuck it, I'm going to make it myself, and it's going to be a powerful story, and it's powerful because of its low budget, and it's powerful because it has those constraints. And that is it's what I'm trying to do with my company, basically.
And I think the great thing about it is that it leans into kind of a small independent film. It doesn't try and be a big blockbuster.
No.
I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some shots in it, like the big landscape shots, which are beautiful.
I mean, and it's still got Edgar Wright behind this as a producer.
Yeah, and
it's still,
which
so
leans
it had
into nicely what we talk about later. But yeah, there are some absolutely beautiful shots in it, but it's not about the spectacle in this film, which I think there's so many films nowadays are style over substance, and this isn't that at all. And I just think I think it's absolutely fantastic. We talk about how mundane it is. Things are in this film that you would never put in a film ever, like just Chris going for a wee, or just like the things that obviously happen to characters in films all the time, but you never see this. Like if this was in a big budget film, this would, like, the montage of them going to these different places would take 4 or 5 minutes. It would be a montage.
Yeah.
I love how mundane
just thought
it
of
is.
another quote. It might be a good one to end this little section.
Yeah.
Everything's gone wrong, Mum. Oh, Tina, you didn't let him see you do number 2s, did you? Watch this film. Watch Sightseer.
Please see it. And anything that, if you think we've spoiled it, we
so
absolutely
sorry.
Well, I'm so sorry, but we absolutely haven't, because there's so much in this.
Just watch it.
Yeah, please watch it. Anyway, so before we move on to the other kind of the main part of the episode, you wouldn't believe it. I think we're quite far in anyway.
I know, it's going to be a long one today.
But I'm enjoying it. I think we've got a lot to say. I'm enjoying it.
I've always got a lot to say.
Unfortunately so. I wish you didn't. So Callum's confession from last week was not The Batman, because that's the most recent one.
No.
Films will have to do that to be different. They put the in front of it. This is Batman, the original, the 1989. And I watched it. Did you watch it, Chris?
My confession is that I didn't watch it because
You
I've
didn't
been
watch
ill
it.
for a week and then on a course for a week. And I'm so sorry. I watched Men, but I did not watch Batman.
Of course you watch Men.
so sorry.
Of course that was the homework that you do.
Yeah, I went straight to searching for Men.
Well, I did my homework, and I did watch Batman, which is on Now TV, by the way, if you want to find it. Because I found it, a lot of these films that we're watching is very hard to get hold of. Some of them. This was on Now TV. Got all the Batman films on there. If you want
Can
to
you
know.
suggest
Not
just
sponsored.
Netflix originals from now on, please?
Yeah.
That would be limited.
So I watched that, and I had quite high expectations for it, because obviously it's known as kind of almost the birth of kind of modern superhero films, everything we spoke about kind of last week. So I had quite high expectations, and I knew it was obviously an old film, and it wasn't going to have the effects kind of today. And one thing that really struck me was how silly it is.
Like, it's quite cheesy from what I
It is.
know
It's
of it.
quite. There's quite a lot of it's quite cheesy, and I guess that's kind of. It's the late 80s, and it's kind of that's. A lot of films were like that, and But if you look at it in comparison to the Batman film, the Batman media before, which was the Adam West stuff, like it's way darker.
Yeah.
And it would have been incredible to watch it at that time, and a totally different thing coming from the Adam West Batman and coming from Superman as well,
Yeah.
which again were even more cheesy. So yes, it was a lot more kind of cheesy humour and stuff than I was expecting. But yeah, do you know what? It was really good, and I think I knew that Tim Burton was directing, but I didn't know there'd be as many Tim Burton isms
Yeah.
in it as there were. Like, this was obviously, it was a big studio, it was Warner Brothers doing it, but it was before kind of the amount of influence studios have now, especially on superhero films. The superhero films now we spoke about last time are such a business and created really by a studio more than they are by any writer or director. But this was very much a Tim Burton film, and you could really see that his footprints were all over it. And we both are big lovers of German expressionism.
I was just going to talk about this.
Yeah, and we did a lot about that in when we did film studies together. And there's a lot of that in it. There's a lot of kind of the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
Yeah,
that
just
kind
how
of
it looked,
stuff.
because I've seen that there's like a video where there's like a comparison of Tim Burton films and like all the kind of 1920s German expressionist films, and just how they look, and from what I've seen of it, it's a beautiful looking.
It is.
film.
It is really,
It's
and
really-
there's a lot of kind of. I've got to remember how you say it properly now. Chiaroscuro. Chiaroscuro. And there's a lot of that in this, and it's
Which is, for people that don't know what that is, it's like
there's a contrast between light and dark.
that noir, film
Yeah,
noir-esque,
lots of
highly
shadows,
shadowed, contrasted look.
that kind of stuff. It is in colour, but you wouldn't know it because so much of the film is so dark. But I think I think it was very good. It was the music. Everyone's heard this Batman music.
What it really brings back for me was I never watched these Batman films.
I know
but
what you're gonna say.
I did play the
Lego games?
the Lego Batman
Yeah,
games.
and they use
on,
this
on
music, yeah.
PSP. I used to play that.
It's
And-
that music is incredible, and
Yeah.
it's pulsing through this entire film.
Danny Elfman, isn't it?
Yeah, Danny Elfman, and it's through the entire film, and
course.
it's pretty much the same theme, but they just use it in different parts and in slightly different ways. But yeah, it really kind of gives the film momentum when sometimes it might seem like it's not got it. I was kind of comparing it to the most recent Batman film that I watched, The Batman, obviously with.
Which I also did.
Which you also
I'm
have
so
not
sorry.
watched.
I will do my homework this time.
With Robert Pattinson, and thank you very much. And
I laughed too hard at that.
and it's the complete opposite problem for me. In the film, the scenes in that film are so long. I spoke about this before, and they're so drawn out. In this film, my goodness, some of the scenes in this are so short. They start the scene, and then within about 30 seconds, it may seem like an exaggeration, some of them were literally that.
Which is strange because like everything else in culture's moved the other way. It's been like long, like older films which have like just longer, drawn out epics that we're now like just you see it in TV. Scenes are just boom, boom, boom.
Yeah,
because we don't have the attention span for it.
It was so weird to have it the opposite way, and it's not like it's a short film. It's still 2 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Which for 1989 was a long film. But yeah, so it was really weird, and the weird thing about that was that the person more often than not that had those really short scenes was Michael Keaton as Batman.
Right.
It's called Batman, but it's Jack Nicholson's film as the Joker. It is his film. He's absolutely let loose in this film. I've heard certain things about what he was like on set that I think most of the time he wasn't himself, or maybe he was more himself than any other time.
Right.
He was on a lot of kind of alcohol and drugs in this.
Okay.
But he
Here's
was
Joker.
he was having the time of his life. It was it's so good. Like there's a scene where they play music on a big jukebox and just go around defacing art things in a gallery, like pieces of art in a gallery, and but that is a really long scene, and then stuff with Batman are very short, so it's very odd in that way. But I think that's to do with how much they had to centre the film around Jack Nicholson because of
It's a big name.
Yeah, he was the big name at the time, and Michael Keaton wasn't, and he was a comedic actor before then, so it was a big call actually to put him in. But for what Michael Keaton gets, he's really good in the film. He really nails in the same way that Robert Pattinson does, in that kind of playing Bruce Wayne as a bit of a weirdo, a bit of an awkward man, not the kind of billionaire playboy philanthropist that Christian Bale kind of plays him as. But yeah, as a real kind of weird, awkward man that doesn't really know how to interact with people, especially women. And they really hone in on the fact that on the really real weirdness of a man dressing up in a suit that looks like a bat.
Yeah.
Like, they really focused in on that. And this is before all superhero costumes were like militarized. This isn't. This is literally Michael Keaton in a rubber bat suit. It's so weird. And you can tell it's rubber because he stands there. There's not much Batman can do in this film. He's not very acrobatic in this film. He stands there, and if he's going to fight someone, it'll just be a punch.
Rubber man fighting crime with his rubber.
All right, Charlie Day. But no, it's he's very static in this film, so it's not kind of the action-packed kind of superhero film that we're used to now. But no, I thought it was really good. And any time that Jack Nicholson was on the screen, he stole it for me. He was absolutely fantastic.
I will watch it for next week with whatever the confession
Please
is.
do. I think it's really well worth the watch to kind of watching it now after all the superhero films that have come afterwards. It looks really derivative, but then you realise, oh no, most of those things are derived from this film. Like, this originates so many kind of cliches and stuff that we now know in superhero films. But no, I think it's absolutely worth a watch, and I can see why kind of things started from there.
And are we setting a new confession now? Do you have a confession?
I think we're going to start. We'll set it later.
Okay.
Once we've spoke about what we're
Because
about to talk about
I have
next.
one for me that might be a good suggestion. Because
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
usually seen quite a lot, but yeah, we'll see. See if you've seen it.
Okay. Well, we'll find out later. Well, we're going to go into another break now.
Yeah.
So after the break, we're going to be talking about Edgar Wright and Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
So yeah, look forward to that, and see you after the break.
See you after the break.
Bye bye now.
Been looking for a snack that is healthy but still gives you the boost you need? Well, look no further, because the Recharge Bar is here. And with a Recharge Bar, you can do anything. Run a marathon? Anything. Stay up all night with newborn twins. Anything! Break the deadlift world record! Anything! Play the double bass while eating a sandwich and playing the violin with my feet. Well, almost anything. The Recharge Bar by Wellness for Winners. Recharge your batteries and go, go, go.
And we're going.
And we're
3,
back.
2, 1, go. Say things that are interesting to people that get us lots of listens. Now.
Got nothing. Yeah, I know, terrible. Right, so to the meat of today, we are, which goes on very nicely from talking about when we spoke about Sightseers before, because who was one of the producers of Sightseers, Chris?
That would be Mr. Edgar Wright.
Edgar Wright. What a lovely segue. So today we're
I
going to
am
be
right in
talking
saying
about.
that, aren't I?
It
I'm not just
is.
making
I
that
looked
up.
as well. It is.
Cool.
So we're going to be talking about two very influential kind of directors in the modern era, really. In Edgar Wright, and who I'm going to be talking about is Wes Anderson. So they've both got very individual kind of iconic styles, now known to be iconic. And yeah, we kind of just want to talk about them and kind of see their influence, and maybe one is more influential than the other, and that kind of thing. And just have a bit of a talk and debate about it.
Yeah. So I'm looking at Edgar Wright and you're looking at Wes Anderson, aren't you?
I am indeed.
Yeah. Would you like me to start?
Go start about
Cool.
Edgar.
I very much enjoy Edgar Wright. It's a very cool thing to like Edgar Wright, I think.
Yeah.
It's a very film student-y.
I think it was. I don't think it is anymore.
Is it
'Cause I
not?
think it's become too mainstream now. Now that he's
Yeah.
done mainstream stuff like Baby Driver and that, I think he's become mainstream.
I really like Edgar Wright. It's that same mentality of just go out and make some stuff. And he was he started his career with his Super 8 camera, going out and like making short films and bits and bobs. He created the film A Fistful of Fingers, which was just again super low budget, make it at home It's like a spoof of like all the kind of Clint Eastwood spaghetti westerns.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah, and I haven't seen it. I wouldn't even know where to get my hands on it, but I'd like to. Yeah, it's just one of those things he made. It's like, again, no budget film. And then that got him noticed by some people like Matt Lucas and David Williams, who got him doing a few episodes of different TV shows. He did some stuff with Jennifer Saunders, I believe, so just like a couple of episodes of TV.
I did not know that. Wait, did he do Little Britain and stuff then? In which case?
No, it was a different show of theirs. I can't quite remember the title.
Right, yeah. Oh, yes, yeah.
But he just did some odd TV jobs. And then the first big thing came along with his friend Simon Pegg, which was Spaced, the TV show. Spaced is brilliant. I love it. It's like a nerd's wet dream. Sorry, it's really a horrible way to put it, but it is. It's just like every single... I mean, they're just countless references. The whole thing. For someone who, like, how much I didn't like kind of superhero films and how it's just constantly referencing its own kind of world. I love Spaced for referencing just every other film ever. I just think it's really clever, and it just cleverly tells the story. It's brilliant, and it's just them as friends, Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright, going out and writing this script, writing these episodes.
Let me just interject. From what I see, I've not seen Spaced.
Have
I've
you
seen
not?
like little clips, but it sounds a lot to me. I don't know if you've heard of it before. Like the American show Clerks.
I haven't seen Clerks.
See, that's I can't remember who does it now, but it seemed like quite a kind of similar thing. They in America again, it's kind of about some nerds that end up just talking about nerdy stuff. They work in a shop. That seemed like quite a similar thing actually. You might like to watch that.
But no, from the get-go Space, you can see his kind of style of just that really punchy kind of editing and punchy storytelling and just whipping all over the place with the bloody camera. And yeah, it was hilarious. He then obviously moved into Shaun of the Dead with this kind of same team, and obviously did the Cornetto trilogy. He then moved to doing Scott Pilgrim versus the
Why is it called the Cornetto trilogy, Chris?
Because there is a cornetto featured in every film in one way or the other.
Can you tell me where in each film?
Oh, this is literally off the top of my memory from watching the films. In Shaun of the Dead, he nips out to the shop to go get a cornetto, and then all the kind of everyone's turning into a zombie around him. In Hot Fuzz, they stop for cornettos in the car when they're doing their stakeout, and I believe in The World's End, it literally just a cornetto wrapper flies by and hits a fence.
Amazing. Fence is also very important in Edgar Wright films.
Yeah, it's just got... Okay, I'm going to stop talking about everything he's done. I just talk why I think he's brilliant. He's just got... In contrast to Wes Anderson, his characters feel like really real and tangible, and there's something immediately kind of latchable onto them. Like, he's got incredibly character-driven films, whereas I think Wes Anderson feels... there's a bit more of a disconnect, I feel, with the characters. I'm not saying they're not interesting characters or brilliant or funny or quirky in that way, but they're very kind of... They're not as like instantly kind of latchable onto as an audience member. That might be a British-American thing. Obviously, Edgar Wright being British filmmaker, and Wes Anderson being an American filmmaker. But there's just something so kind of grounded and funny about his characters. Even with Last Night in Soho, which is his kind of move into less comedy, more of a psychological horror. The characters feel just so grounded and interesting, and you want them to succeed. And there's something kind of like... There's just something so likeable about them. Like Sean, just... he's likeable because he's his bad traits are noticeable in all of us. The kind of laziness, getting stuck in the same kind of habits and things.
Well, it's funny you say about Last Night in Soho. As I said, I haven't actually seen it, which is terrible. But from what I see, it's probably the most different of all of his films, is it not?
Yes.
So is it still instantly recognisable as an Edgar Wright film, would you say?
Oh, absolutely.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah. It certainly is. It's very different. It's because he's not using comedy as much, but it's just it's so hard to put my finger on what it is. But it's just the pace of it. It's the kind of
It's a lot in the editing, isn't it? Really.
He's such. I don't know who his editor is. I should have looked that up, to be honest. But I know he has a big. He's a big say in the editing room. But it's just the pace of it. I think it's brilliant, and again, it's used. Last Night in Soho heavily uses kind of pop culture and cultural references to kind of play on our fears, and it's all about how kind of, how we have this kind of rose-tinted view of the '60s and the heyday of kind of Britain, but the kind of the dark, seedy kind of underworld and all the misogyny that kind of came with it, told through the perspective of someone nowadays. It's just really good. He's got a way of kind of making just so many different cultural references, but just turning it into his own. He's not reliant on that. A really great bit of actually crossover with Sightseers and Edgar Wright. There's a short called Mint Royale promo.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like his kind of screen test
Well,
almost for Baby Driver.
It's a music video, isn't it?
Yeah, so there's a song by Mint Royale called Blue Song, I believe.
Yes.
And Edgar Wright had this concept of, a character who is committing a crime but can't do it without listening to the right music. And that was obviously the whole kind of thing of, that's what Baby Driver became. Yeah. But when he first tested this, it was in a car park in, I'm assuming, London, with Noel Fielding playing the kind of main character.
It's brilliant.
And who else is in the car? Julian Barrett, and who's also... So Noel Fielding and Julian Barrett created my favourite TV show of all time, which is The Mighty Boosh, which is just pure kind of surrealness. And Nick Frost is also in the car, obviously from all of Edgar Wright's films. And also... a comedy actor called Michael Smiley, who is in almost all, apart from Sightseers, almost all of Ben Wheatley's films. So for me, that combination was so good, and you can just really start to see like a really strong vision that became a film, became an amazing blockbuster American film. It's just really nice to see some grounded British talent become something so big. And that's really why I enjoyed Edgar Wright.
Speaking of Last Night in Soho, obviously Thomasin Mackenzie's in it,
yes.
who plays Eloise.
And she is from New Zealand.
Yes.
And she does such a good British accent, because it's not just a general British accent. She's got like elements of West Country in there. The character's from Cornwall. And I would have had no idea that she was from New Zealand.
Well, she also did a fantastic German accent in Jojo Rabbit, which is why I bring her up.
Yes.
Because I love Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's good.
Brilliant film. So was she good then? Because I thought she'd be brilliant. She was fantastic
amazing in that film. She is honestly amazing in Last Night in Soho. So good. She's got such a kind of, again, just such a likable character. He writes characters that you just latch onto.
I mean, it must have been hard, because I was worried that she might have been overshadowed because of just how bright Anya Taylor-Joy's star is shining at the moment. She's incredible, and for me, she steals everything that she's in. But I'm pleased to know that it's kind of balanced.
I don't know if you know much of the storyline of Last Night in Soho.
Not particularly.
Basically, Thomasin Mackenzie's character is a fashion student,
right? And
she has this. She somehow acquires this ability to see what's going on in London in the '60s, and she sees it through the character of through Anya Taylor-Joy's character.
Yeah.
So that dynamic between them really works, because Anya Taylor-Joy plays this kind of ethereal, enigmatic character from the '60s that she sees the world through. So it's like a kind of like Thomasin Mackenzie's character is like almost aspiring to be like this,
right,
and then kind of she starts to morph into her character a bit. But both are brilliant. Matt Smith, who played the 11th Doctor, is in this playing a villain, which was really great to see, and yeah, was amazing in it. It's just really so clever.
He's doing quite a lot of that at the moment. He's really leaned into the villain thing.
Wasn't he in Morbius or something?
Unfortunately, I feel like he's hard done by in that, because apparently it's a terrible film, but I don't think he was bad in it. I mean, I love Matt Smith, but he was also obviously he's in the Game of Thrones prequel at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah,
I assume he's a villain in that
Targaryen,
as well. Yeah. I do need to watch Last Night in Soho. It does look very good. Awesome.
Yeah. So in comparison to and so my kind of relationship with Edgar Wright as a creative has always been really strong. I've always inspired by him. I inspired kind of the route he took, which Wes Anderson also took a very similar route into the industry. He was again just out making films with a Super 8 camera. I'm glad neither of them are like, you know, Mummy and Daddy were in the film industry and plopped me into it. So I can't fault either of them in that. And I've got nothing wrong against Wes Anderson. My dad is like a huge kind of inspiration on my kind of what I was watching in film and stuff. He's a huge film buff and got me into watching loads of different stuff. And he cannot stand any Wes Anderson film. Really doesn't like them. I think he's never walked out of a film other than The Life Aquatics of Steve Zissou. He really doesn't get on with them. He doesn't engage with the characters at all. And so for me, growing up, you know, you're obviously impressionable. I was always like, haha, I'm never going to watch a Wes Anderson film because my dad doesn't like it. Right, and then like years ago, I was like, no, I'm going to check it out and see what it's like. And I watched The Grand Budapest Hotel and loved it. I thought it was so funny, brilliant, and I love his style. I think it's absolutely brilliant. But I do get that kind of disconnect, which I don't feel with Edgar Wright. Is so grounded in British culture and British references, and it really. It breathes. His films just kind of happen so solidly and effortlessly.
Yeah, I think what you were talking about earlier about him going into the American film market is interesting, because I was watching a video a while ago about kind of the difference between, it's quite generalised, but the difference between American humour and British humour in films. And you tend to see in a lot of American comedies is they talk a lot. Like everything is verbal. Yeah. A joke is always overly explained and it's always done verbally rather than most of the time. Obviously, Wes Anderson is actually goes away from this, but most of the time everything is kind of done verbally. Whereas with British comedy and Edgar Wright epitomises this beautifully, is that it's all about visual comedy and it's shown most obviously in what's it called? World's End? No?
The World's End?
Yeah, The World's End. In The World's End, where I think it's Nick Frost's character is the only one out of the group that doesn't drink.
Yeah.
So in an American kind of comedy film, they would just be like laughing at him as why he doesn't drink and trying to get him to drink or anything like that. It would be all kind of overtly trying to make it funny and done a kind of a big thing, and they'd all be laughing and joking about it. But in Edgar Wright, it's very subtle. It's just a shot of each pint being poured, and then after the last pint, it's a pint of water being poured.
And it always rises like, boo, 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 boo.
Yeah.
The water. And like, honestly, he knows how to use every single aspect of visual storytelling to tell a joke.
And sound as well, like, apart from kind of verbal, but he used sounds. Obviously, music is quite obvious with him, but just like you said then with the difference of sound between the pints and the water, he uses, as you say, he uses every element so well.
And so to highlight the kind of two films that are a bit different. So Last Night in Soho is not a comedy. It's got lots of like comedy dialogue in it, and there's lots of funny bits. But again, I think I feel like he uses everything at his disposal to make that scary for you, which is brilliant. And his other and Baby Driver was not really critically well received.
Was it not?
No, not
surprisingly.
It was very popular, amongst fans, and everyone was received really well. But I believe a lot of critics didn't really get on with it. Which is insane to me, because this is like the kind of like filmmaker's dream. Like, you know, when you're just like when you're a kid and you're being driven along somewhere and you're just leaning your head out the window and a really good track's playing and you're just like visualizing this whole thing to go. That whole film feels like that kid's dream of just like the whole film. Just the soundtrack builds it. It just makes the whole film. It's one big soundtrack enhanced by what you're seeing on the screen. It's just he's very innovative, and I know everyone loves him, and I think he's brilliant as well. I think he's just a really strong. It's nice to see some really good British talent shine out there in such a unique way.
Absolutely, and I think that film particularly is a very cool film. I think all of his films are pretty cool, and I think that, which is funny because a lot of it comes from a nerdy sensibility, and a lot of his characters are pretty nerdy, and I think a lot of his a lot of his stories generally revolve around kind of nerdy characters,
Yes.
and kind of outsider characters that somehow find a way of being heroic or
Yeah.
having like kind of this big change. I think that was really interesting watching Baby Driver, because he found a way to revolutionise car chases.
Yeah.
And which for the amount of years that it's been done and the amount of famous car chases that have happened, kind of Bullet and the Italian Job and absolutely millions of them, and he manages to come along after all those years and still do something different.
Yeah, but it's because of those
amazing.
other aspects of visual storytelling that he uses. It's the soundtrack. It's brilliant. And I'm really glad to see him in Last Night in Soho use for the first time like a really strong kind of pairing of female protagonists. And to move from his kind of slightly kind of more nerdy kind of character to something in the fashion. He seems like he stepped out into something entirely different for him. But it's such a strong piece of work.
That's the nice thing to see about him, is I think he is evolving. And he's changing, and he's going that bit more mainstream, but he's changing the mainstream. He's doing mainstream in his own way.
Yes.
And
I really like films that Drive and the Guest, that really use that kind of like neon look. That's like heavy, like blues and reds into the to the cinematography. And Last Night in Soho does that a lot. It's that kind of neon, bright London city lights. It just looks and feels tangible and good. And I just discovered Soho for myself around that time. I'd been to Soho and found like a really cool bar, and I was like blown away by Soho. It's such a cool place in London. And then to go see Last Night in Soho and just I've been there, done that. It's just really good, really strong film, really strong director.
Well, going on to our next director, and funny enough, we just spoke about kind of how Edgar Wright is kind of developing, and how lots of different films more recently. Now speaking about someone who is sometimes kind of said that he hasn't really developed, and his films are a bit samey, is Wes Anderson. Now, one thing that I think you need to know to really understand Wes Anderson and to understand his films is that when he was younger, he wanted to be an architect. He wanted to be either an architect or an artist, and I feel like that makes so much sense when watching his films. It's so much about the way that things look and about shapes, and so often people say every frame is a painting. Yeah. But literally with Wes Anderson films, it is. And
100%.
it's obviously the most obvious thing that people know about Wes Anderson films is symmetry. It's all about symmetry.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what he's known for. But I think at the same time, that's maybe an unfair thing to say. And some people think that's his only thing. That's his trick. But that's just his signature style. And there's so much more that goes with that, and like you said earlier, Edgar Wright and a lot of the directors that we like, he started from the very bottom, making films with his best friend Owen Wilson.
Yeah.
I can't quite remember what the first film was, but I believe that they made this on no budget whatsoever. They then sent it around to studios, and then I believe, I could be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure they then remade it, but with the budget.
Yeah.
And it's just really nice to see that, because you look at him now and you go, kind of, how has that happened? You look at his films and the budget that's poured into it and how beautiful they are, and you go, how has he come from kind of that small place? But yeah, his work is absolutely kind of fantastic. And I think the first film that I watched of his, which a lot of people of our generation will be Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yes, yeah, I've seen that too.
Now, I saw this when I was, I think we went on a school trip to the cinema to go and watch this in Cromer, lovely little cinema, and we went to go and watch it. And obviously, I wasn't quite aware of kind of filmmaking and kind of good films at the time, but I watched it as any other kind of children's film that I watched at the time, and I could tell there was something different about it. I absolutely loved the style as a child, and it was just so elevated, and there was so much more going on than other films for children. And obviously, that film, while it's derived from a children's book, I think that's an incredibly inclusive film, and anyone can watch that. I watched it I don't know, about a year or so ago with my much younger sister, and I enjoyed that just as much or even more as an adult as I did as a child.
Yeah.
It's an incredible film, and I think he does. Obviously, Aardman and people like that are known for their stop motion animation, but I think he does stop motion animation films better than anyone else.
Yeah, it's hard. I find him very hard to, like, if someone's to come up to me and be like, describe a Wes Anderson film, I find it very hard, other than like pointing out like the visual elements, like it's very symmetrical. The actor is usually right in the centre of the frame, aren't they? Which is very strange for film. I find it hard to pinpoint what it is about his films that are so quirky. Like where I couldn't perceive where he comes from with his character, like how he writes and directs characters. I think they're so strange. They're such strange people.
Yeah, I think the thing is, in a similar way to Edgar Wright, he very much has a particular person he likes to write about.
Yes.
Which I guess the same as Edgar Wright is basically himself. Is that kind of the outsider, in a similar way to Edgar Wright, kind of the outsider in pretty much all of his films. You look at them, and pretty much all of his films are about this slightly weird person that doesn't quite fit in. They're a bit disenfranchised with life, and it's about them and their family. So much about his films are all about family dynamics and dysfunctional families. So many of them, and not only families, but kind of friends as well. In that you look at the Grand Budapest Hotel. They're very much a family, and it's kind of focused on that. I think, and this is one of the things that he's criticised for is his films being very samey, both in their visual look, but in the themes. There are a lot of the same themes. I think he kind of talks about the same issues with similar visuals, but with different concepts. So obviously, Life Aquatic, about kind of a group of people being on a submarine. And then the Grand Budapest Hotel is people in a hotel. Fantastic Mr. Fox, again, same story, but in a different premise about foxes and its stop motion animation. So that is a criticism of him, but I think also a strength in that going into a Wes Anderson film, you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
And I think that's, for a lot of people, that's quite comforting. And I think, nonetheless, every time that he does those similar things, because he literally copies shots in different films, and I've seen an interview, and he doesn't do it deliberately, but he will do the same things because he likes doing that.
Yeah.
And so much of the time. But nevertheless, every time that same thing happens, you enjoy it just as much, or I do anyway. I think through these films, I've really noticed how much I love kind of the arty nature of films and how beautiful they are. And funny enough, I spoke earlier about style over substance, and some people might say that his films are a bit style over substance. But I think if you really watch enough of his films, you actually see that I think, contrary to what you said earlier, I think you can connect with the characters. I think if you really kind of sit with them and let them play out, and certainly on a second viewing, I think you can really get into the human nature of these characters, and it is a little bit heightened. I think the acting is a bit heightened.
Absolutely.
It's not necessarily the most kind of natural acting, but I think I love all of his characters, and I mean how much that he gets you to love this clay fox and his family is incredible.
And also, much like Edgar Wright, he is an incredibly talented filmmaker in the terms of using his timing in terms of the actual production itself. I think a lot of like standard American comedies, the actors have great timing and they're brilliant. They're brilliant, and they've nailed their comedy timing. But there's like in both Edgar Wright and Wes Anderson, there was a fantastic timing to the editing and the length of shots and just how it whips from one thing to another. No, they're both incredibly talented in that sense.
And in the same sense, he pretty much always uses the same team. And so I don't actually know who his editor is, but the same as Edgar Wright, I think he works very closely with his editor, but his cinematographer is Robert Yeoman.
Right.
And I was watching a thing about it, and obviously Wes is such a stickler for things being symmetrical and things looking beautiful. So when they're lining up shots, they will put tape, little tape marks as where the corner of the frames are, to make sure everything is kind of squared off. And it's so quite clinical in that way. And I think that's how I would describe his films, and maybe why some people would say they're soulless, and why people like yourself would say they can't connect with the characters, because I think there is a clinical nature to it in how perfect everything is.
Yeah, but it's strange because there is some. For me, it's his films are so like that kind of uncanny valley thing again. For me, it's like there's something I like you as a character. I like you. You're making me laugh. That I want you to succeed. But there's something just so off about you, and it is that kind of perfect world. Actually, the only thing I've ever found that's come very close to like stylistically to a Wes Anderson film, again, such an amazing TV show. It's called Utopia.
Okay.
It came out on Channel 4. It's 2 series. One of my favourite TV programmes, and I'd argue that the style that they used, which was very Wes Anderson, worked almost better than a Wes Anderson film, because it was a conspiracy drama that is like meant to, and it's a horror. It's meant to make you feel like really tense and unnerved the whole time.
Yeah.
And this, because it's all about government cover-ups and everything, the kind of perfect nature of every shot and the symmetricalness of it, and the big pop of yellows and greens and like the really strong colours, it created like, it worked really well for like a horror kind of a darker setting, because it's got that uncanny weird feeling to it, which is I think why a lot of the time with his Wes Anderson, who's the comedy films, the comedy dramas, there's that strange feeling of being unnerved, which is strange because it's symmetrical. Everything should feel right, but it somehow doesn't.
Yeah, I get, and I think, like I said, they're the clinical nature, and I think it does lend itself well to horror. And I think it would be nice to see him do something like that. I don't think he will.
No,
but I think
I'd
it'd be
so
nice
watch
to.
a Wes Anderson horror film. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, it is that weird thing of that really kind of clinical, too perfect nature. But for me, they are just really. When I think of a Wes Anderson film, I feel warm. That is the word that comes to mind for me. Is it feels warm, and that's to do with the colours, the kind of the autumn kind of colours and the hues that he uses in his films. And I don't know, I do just feel good watching Wes Anderson film. I just really enjoy them. I like symmetry and stuff like that, and I just think they're brilliant.
Have that.
Not for you.
It doesn't evoke that emotional response for me as well.
No.
But I'm sitting there and I'm loving it as a film. I think it's brilliant. I think it's so well done. But I don't know. There's just a disconnect with it, and which is why I really didn't want to talk about Wes Anderson, and I wanted to talk about Edgar Wright with this, because I find I cannot place what it is, and maybe that's what he's going for. He's making these slightly strange. I mean, of course he is. That's his whole thing. There's strange characters. There's strange situations, but it's a strange viewing experience. Yeah. Yeah,
and I think the funny thing is, you say that and you connect a lot more with Edgar Wright, but there's actually, I think, a lot of crossovers between him and Edgar Wright. Obviously, as I said, where they started, but also in He Loves a Whip Pan, as does Edgar Wright. And music is incredibly important in both of them. I'd say that Edgar Wright cuts around music maybe more so than Wes Anderson does. But yeah, I think there's and kind of the comedy style. Wes Anderson films feel really British to me, actually. I don't think it feels American at all. It doesn't feel like overly produced or anything like that. It doesn't feel like it's made by a studio at all. And he's such an auteur in that sense. And I think and I get people's criticisms is they all feel kind of the same, his films, and he's even said himself that pretty much any character from any film could walk across into one of the other films and it would be the same world. And so I get why people would think maybe that's boring, and I would love to see him do something else. But I don't know, I think there's a real nice, comfortable, just lovely feeling with Wes Anderson films, and just really funny. Like he does the same shot a lot of the time where people will stand still for a second and then out of nowhere just run away.
Yeah.
Like in the Grand Budapest Hotel and in several other ones, when in that one where Ralph Fiennes just runs away from
The
the
police are
policeman.
here. It's like,
Yeah, it's just
pause, run.
it's that
It's
weird
so good.
comedy. I think also a little bit that's almost a little bit Sightseer for me. There's that maybe not quite so mundane, but it's just that really awkward comedy. You don't know whether you should laugh or not.
Yeah.
Like there's a bit I think in the Grand Budapest Hotel where Tilda Swinton's character, I think he's dead and she's in a casket, and I can't quite remember what happens, but there's a moment when you laugh, you're like, oh, I probably shouldn't laugh at that, but it is funny.
Yeah.
There's so much of that in it. So it's just it's that really weird mix between style over substance maybe, but also this real weird indie humour coming out. It's such a weird mix. But
He's very
for me,
subtle
it
with
works.
his humour.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah,
I think Edgar Wright is so bold with his humour. Yeah, I think that's the difference. I think that's why Edgar Wright's a bit more kind of like his humour's more latchable. You can grab it onto it a bit easier because it's easily there. You can see what he's trying to do. But Wes Anderson, I very much feel like he's making films for himself, which I 100% is. Of course, that's what you need to do. But his style and sense of humour is so niche that you either love it or you're just like, what is happening right now?
Yeah, I think it is a bit love or hate, really. And I think the word that really comes to mind when you think of Wes Anderson for me is, as I say, kind of the warmth, but also meticulous.
Yes.
Everything about a Wes Anderson film is meticulous in obviously the end product, but obviously then how it was made. Everything. I can't imagine what it's like to work on a Wes Anderson film. I know I heard something about he had someone recorded that he was having a rant about how something wasn't squared off. It wasn't symmetrical.
Yeah.
I can imagine it's a weird experience because obviously everything as an actor, as I've learnt myself, is all about the truth and having the truth in imaginary circumstances and all that stuff. And I feel like it would be really difficult as an actor on one of his sets to get the truth out in such a forced environment where, right, you have to stand there because this is where we need you for the camera, and that has to be there, and we have to make sure this is symmetrical. So there must be a really odd scenario because at the same time he wants you to create characters that are warm and that you can connect to.
Yeah.
So that it must be a very odd scenario there as an actor.
See, I couldn't tell you massively what a plot of a Wes Anderson film is.
Right.
I couldn't tell you point by point what happens in the film. That's what I think the difference is. For Edgar Wright, these feel like grounded characters in extraordinary situations, which I love as a writer, and I think is the better way of doing it because it's something recognisable, and that you're throwing these characters into interesting circumstances. What I feel with Wes Anderson is he's just presenting very strange people doing relatively normal things.
Well, it's funny you say that because one of the biggest kind of plot devices that he uses in pretty much every film is a meticulous plan. So, like in Fantastic Mr. Fox, there's this massive exposition scene about they're going to go to this farm and then to this farm and then to this farm. In pretty much all of his films, they have that. In the Grand Budapest Hotel, it's about, I think is it breaking someone out of prison or something, or it's going into some kind of
I couldn't tell
thing.
you. That's what I think. It feels like something happens and then something happens. In Wes Anderson films, thing happens after that thing just happens. And then it's like, what's going on? I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but there's something very confusing and just, I don't know. Again, I cannot place Wes Anderson. I cannot tell what you're doing. I can't place my finger on what it is.
Well, I'm sure he's listening to it, so that's good.
I know you're listening, regular listener.
Good old Wes.
Good old Wesy boy.
But I think this is what I'd say. If we're comparing and contrasting the two, who has a more recognisable style? Well, honestly, who would you say has...
I would say Wes Anderson would have a more recognisable style. I'm not saying that's necessarily a better thing.
No. But he does. You would more instantly... If you put on both of their films for a minute, you would know that it was Wes Anderson film. You wouldn't know it was an Edgar Wright film in a minute.
Is it better to go into a film going, I'm going to make this in my style, or I'm going to go into this film to tell a cool and interesting story?
true, but I think that I know that you disagree to some extent, but I think that Wes Anderson does that as well.
Okay.
Maybe in a less clear way, and I do get that. And even myself, I love his films, but even earlier, I couldn't exactly remember what the part of that plot was from the Grand Budapest Hotel. So I think for me with Wes Anderson films, I can, contrary to what you're saying, I can remember how they made me feel.
Right.
I can't remember exactly what exactly they were doing, but I can remember what they made me feel.
Whereas I can remember the imagery of them and how they look. I can remember specific where characters are sat. I can visualize the beautiful just hotel and with the snow blowing around it. I can see his films visually in my head, but I can't tell you massively what happened in them. Revisiting them, which is interesting. It's just interesting to see how they differ.
Yeah, but I think that there's a great quote, and I'm not going to be able to get it word for word, but there's a quote that I heard that one of my tutors told me at university that was, I'm going to butcher it now. It's something like, people will never remember what you say, but they will always remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how I feel with a lot of the films that I love so much, and particularly the Wes Anderson films. For all the beauty and everything, and the great scripts and the great one-liners and stuff, it's just I really attach them to a particular feeling that they made me feel, and I'm sure it's the same for you with Edgar Wright films. And again, I'm also, by the way, I love Edgar Wright, and I love his films, and I love both of them, and that's why it's not it's not a fight between them.
No,
it's just two different directing styles, but I think they're both brilliant.
Should we do a little in conclusion?
In conclusion, what's your in conclusion, Chris?
In conclusion is I think Edgar Wright is brilliant because he's innovative in comedy, and he just uses every single thing at his disposal to make you laugh. And on the flip side, with Last Night in Soho, it just the pace and brilliance of that film, and just he knows how to effectively reference other things and use pop culture and ingrain it within his films to the point that it's making new pop culture. And I think that's really strong visual storytelling.
Yeah, I think I absolutely agree. And I think on the opposite end, Wes Anderson, his films are every frame literally is a painting. But there's humour in there, and I think there is human nature. And as I say, I think they make you, or certainly make me feel warm.
Cool. Right.
There we go. I think it's time for another great
Time for a
advert.
little break. Yeah.
Right,
See you soon, folks.
See you soon.
I've always struggled with dating. Yeah, my long walks on the beaches, picking up stones, yeah. Well, now I've got my new dating app. It's made my carbon dating process so much easier. With Carbon Dating app, it tells you instantly how old your fossils are. So now, I don't have a problem with dating at all. Yeah, carbon dating. The other kind is to be improved upon. Get new Carbon Dating app.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, that's nice. Right, so once again in our main section, we all got a bit serious.
Yeah,
didn't we?
I feel like I've been less funny. You know, last time I was just absolute comedy legend,
Of course.
and would have had so many people in tears, laughter, and I feel
Not
today.
sure about laughter.
I just haven't been getting all those comedy jabs in. Making
know.
everyone laugh because I am,
A narcissist. Oh, sorry, funny, very funny.
No, I was going to say I'm the one kind of carrying the podcast.
It's my podcast, just where you live.
Who's got the first name on the title, mate?
Right, okay.
Right,
I
we
want
need to address this.
I
Yeah.
want to bring this up. So it's Chris and Callum's Film Club, but for the only reason in that it worked better in the song.
It sounds
and that's
nice.
The only
Well, no, but
reason.
it's got like more flow. Chris and Callum's Film Club.
Callum and
Chris's
yeah.
Film Club. It's harder to say.
That is annoying.
So it's my show
Just like everything else is yours.
by
Anyway,
Raising Cane Production.
we'll talk about that later. We're going to do plugs later.
All right.
Later.
You can plug me up later.
I'm going to get you to watch Men again. Oh God. So anyway, so we've all been a bit serious. We've all been speaking nerdy about films.
And
which I
you listened
apologise
to
for.
it, didn't you?
Yeah, so
You
actually
loved
that's
it.
your fault. I think no
Nerds.
one's listening. So we're going to have a bit of fun like we did last week now, but with a different game. So this is going to be...
Because our impressions probably made you like.
turn
you
off,
switch
or
off,
cringe. Yeah,
honestly.
sorry about that. Especially, I have to apologise to my was it,
I
yeah,
am really sorry.
my Christopher
Whatever it was.
Walken. Oh,
That wasn't my Walken, by the way. That was my impression of Callum's impression.
Listening to it back, it was actually like, horrendous. I'm not even going to do it again. Anyway, so we've got a different game this week. We'll come back to that game another week. But for this week, we're doing the film word association game.
Yeah.
So we have got kind of some famous films, and we're going to
Classic films.
some classic films. We're going to fire them to each other. And should we go
Shall I-
one after the other? So me.
No,
and-
let's do a list. I
A
feel
list,
like I
okay,
want
yeah.
to attack you with mine until you're broken down
just
into
put a
nothing.
full stop after that. You just want to attack me.
I just want
Yeah,
to attack
good, yeah.
you.
So,
So
yeah.
I'm going to throw these film titles at Callum. He's going to
Yeah.
come up with a word. That first word that pops into his head. If something really
no.
weird comes out, we'll dive into that. It'll
get
be
a
a little
therapist
therapy
in.
session. Yeah. Okay, starting right off the bat with The Shawshank Redemption.
Morgan Freeman.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Why can't I think of anything?
First word that comes to your head.
First, Danny DeVito. That's boring.
I know what you because of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They
Yeah.
do like a spoof.
I love. Well, and he was in it.
Is Danny DeVito in that film?
Yes. Do you not know that? That was one of his like first jobs. Yeah, Danny DeVito was in that film. You've got to watch it again now. Have you
I did
seen
not
it?
know
Please
that.
tell me you've seen
No,
it.
I haven't. 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Space.
Doctor Strangelove or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb.
Are there two different things?
That's the whole title. Doctor Strangelove or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. That's the full title.
Government.
It's a great film. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
We're getting lots of confessions
Oh,
here.
mate, yeah, that could be a confession.
Jaws.
Dun dun dun. I don't know.
Why would you go dun 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 and not dun dun? Dun.
I've gone with the wrong dumb.
You know what Jaws reminds me of?
Yeah.
Is I made you into a Jaws poster with our film teacher one time, didn't I?
Did you?
I just went for a time of editing you.
I don't
into
remember
different
that.
things. Well, like when
we
we
need to
do
release that.
when we do like any social media for this episode, I'll see if I can find that photo. Actually, I shouldn't post photos of my film teacher online without his.
Oh, he was in it.
Yeah.
I thought, oh right, wait, was it both of us?
No, it was just you. Anyway, Fargo.
A big axe.
The Green Mile.
Prison.
Pulp Fiction.
That is a tasty burger.
The Maltese Falcon.
Maltesers.
Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Doodly doodle doo.
The Exorcist.
Oh, head twisting around.
Rocky.
Da-da-da.
Oh, that's not what I would have said.
Da-da-da. What were you going to say?
Adrian! It's a Wonderful Life.
Never seen it.
Lastly, Gladiator.
I can't think of the quote. The Kraken. That's not even that. Is that
so
it?
not
No.
close. The
What was I
Kraken.
thinking of? That's not that film, is it? That's a total.
That's
That's...
Pirates of the Caribbean.
No, it's not. No,
Maurice the Kraken.
no, it was that other. Oh, I'm a terrible person with films. I can't remember what film I was thinking of. Olympus? Something? Oh, I don't know.
I've got
I'm
no
so
idea.
sorry. No, Clash of the Titans. That's what I was thinking of.
Oh, right.
What I meant to say was the quote by Russell Crowe. Do you know it well? Because I don't.
No.
Father to a murdered son. That one.
No, I don't know.
Oh, good.
Well, that was some. I don't know how many I did. I just chucked some at you, and then my list ran out. So
Yeah. That
Chuck some at
shows
me.
how slowly my brain works.
We're still finding it, by the way, with this podcast. Excuse us for our strange games. We're settling down into it.
We'll never find it. Right, okay. 12 Angry Men.
Chiwetel Ejiofor. I don't know how to say his name, but that's how it's spelled.
Yeah. Apocalypse Now.
Apocalypse when?
The Wizard of Oz.
Yellow Brick Road.
It's hard, isn't it?
I know.
The Sound of Music.
The hills are alive.
The Godfather.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
The Dark Knight.
Batman.
Taxi Driver.
You talking to me?
Oh, he's good at this. Star Wars Episode 1, A New Hope.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Oh, that was actually episode.
It's not really
4.
word association. It's
No.
just thought association.
Forrest Gump.
Life is like a box of chocolates.
You never know what you're gonna get. Citizen Kane.
Orson Welles.
Willis Wonka. Willis Wonka.
Will you see my Wonka?
Do you want to see my Wonka?
Do you want to see my chocolate factory?
And if you want more of that, come and see Chris's show, Confess. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Johnny Depp, for some reason.
Casablanca.
Play it again, Sam.
Singing in the Rain.
Yellow overcoats.
E.T.
Ouch.
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Jim Carrey.
Ooh, Goodfellas.
Badfellas.
Bad Boy. Seven Samurai.
Japan.
Nice. Mary Poppins.
Spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down.
Lovely. Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Da, 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 da. It's not even a word. It's just a tune.
Psycho. Very nice. And one more. Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
There's so many quotes in this
Yeah.
film. 'Tis but a scratch. There we go. That's the thought that
Lovely.
came into...
Well, I hope you enjoyed that.
That was strange, but quite fun actually. I feel like energized
Yeah.
from that.
We need some more games because I
know.
enjoy doing these.
Yeah, we need to think of something. We need to make this podcast a bit more fun, you know.
So this was a good one. I'm sorry, as we say, it's not maybe as funny as the last one. 'Cause
Yeah,
the
but
last
life's
one
not
was
always
kinda
funny, so just
No.
shut up. okay?
Grow
Deal with it.
up. Great reference.
Was that Christopher
so-
Walken again? Grow up. There's no punctuation at all.
Look, I had good. Listening to it back, I was quite pleased with my Scouse and with my
Yeah, that
South
was really
African,
good.
just not with my Walken.
Did you like my staff?
Very good stuff. Very good. But yeah, so that's pretty much the end of the episode. All that leaves now is, first of all, let's give recommendations.
Recommendations? Yes, of course. Well, seeing as you haven't seen Last Night in Soho, and I've got it here on DVD for you, I'm going to give it to you,
Thank
and you can bring it. I'm like a little video light. I'm like Blockbusters for you.
What are you going under it?
Maybe when we start recording.
Just saying, he just lifted his eyebrows at me, and that was horrendous. Can I just say, I actually brought your DVD Sightseers back in perfect condition.
did.
Didn't scratch it.
Yeah, yeah.
I almost forgot it. I'll
I'm
be totally
surprised.
honest.
And Callum turned up early today.
Yeah.
Which is, and it was like 10 minutes early. I've never known him in his life to do that. But there is an actual solid
There's a caveat
explanation,
to
isn't
that.
there?
The reason that I was early, so I was supposed to be here at 5:30. What I put in my calendar was be here for 5 o'clock. I turned up here at 5:25.
So again, chronically late. He just got the wrong time.
But I'm taking it as early. Do you know, Chris couldn't believe it when I turned up, could you?
You went, oh, I've got to explain to you why I'm early. I'm like, no, you don't. You have to explain to me why every other time you've been late for everything. That's the explanation.
Oh god. So that's your recommendation to me. My recommendation to you, as we've been talking about Edgar Wright today. So I've got so I met an actor the other day. Met a few new actor friends the other day. We did a shoot together and it was very fun. Had a nice few drinks. And anyway, one of the people that I met, whose name is Rafe, he's kind of a new actor. Hasn't been like yourself. Hasn't had any kind of formal training.
Cool.
But he's doing it without training. He's looking like he might go into training. But anyway, like a lot of these people we spoke about today, with his friends, he's just getting out there and just making stuff. Not waiting for people to come at his door and for the money to come around. He's just making stuff. And he's made this film, which he's released, and it's going out to film festivals and stuff like that. He's made a film with his friends called Spooky Bastards.
Spooky Bastards.
And I say bastards because that's how he said it to me. Yeah, it's very much, it's very Edgar Wright inspired. It's very funny. It's very quirky. It's only about I think 20 minutes or so long, so not going to take up much of your time. And yeah, I just think it's really nice to shine light on these little projects that might not be seen otherwise. And yeah, it's incredibly funny. And please watch it. And his name is Rafe Bird. So look out for him.
I've auditioned Rafe Bird.
No, you
I
haven't.
have auditioned Rafe Bird for Jack's role in Last Shot and Confess.
No.
I have met Rafe Bird,
That's mental.
and I thought he was very good.
He's from Nottingham. How? That's so odd.
He's got a base in Great Yarmouth,
Yes.
and yeah, I've genuinely auditioned Rafe Bird.
Whoa.
I didn't give him the role. But
Well, there we go. We're giving back to you now,
no,
Rafe.
but he was excellent. He
He's
was
really good.
incredibly good. That is so strange.
That's
Good on him.
Yeah, really.
What
I
a
think
small
you'll love
world.
it. It's brilliant. It's really good.
Rafe, I hope you're listening. It was nice to meet you on auditions. I'm sorry I didn't get you the role that time, but you were incredible. You were very good. You were an incredibly strong candidate.
He's very good. Very
I'm
funny,
excited
man.
to see that you're doing stuff like this, and I will check it out.
Yeah, man. So that is my recommendation to you, good sir. And now, if we go on to Callum's Confessions.
Yeah.
So we were just thinking about this during the break, and while that lovely advert was on, and kind of thinking about what the confession might be this week. And what did you come up with, Chris?
Well, I had a couple, but you've identified that you haven't seen Alien,
Yeah.
which is insane.
Well,
to
this
me.
is what Callum's Confessions is about. It is a confession. Yeah,
know.
I've never seen it. I've
Why
seen,
are you doing a
but
film
what's
podcast?
worse is that I have seen an Alien film, Alien 3, when we were in film studies, and that's the only Alien film I've ever watched, which is regarded as one of the worst.
Disgusting.
Even though I thought it was quite good.
Well, you're wrong. If you think Alien 3 is good, wait till you see Alien, the actual one that you're meant to see, you muppet. Yeah, I will lend you my Blu-ray and you can watch
Amazing.
Alien. It is so good. Again, watched it far too young.
It's like terrifying, isn't it?
It's like they had the same thing with Jaws, whereas the shark didn't look very good on camera.
Yeah. So
they
they
didn't show it
yeah.
much, which makes the horror so much worse.
Mhm.
And again, you barely see the alien,
Mm.
and it's so scary.
Maybe that's where they went wrong then, because over the years, obviously, as CGI has got better, they showed more and more of the alien. So maybe, that's what it is.
It's yeah. That's what I love about horror. That stuff that the more you don't show, the scarier it is. You know.
Well, there we go. So Callum's confession this week is Alien.
Yeah. Are we
And
doing
that first one was Ridley Scott, was it not?
Ridley Scott? Yeah.
Yeah, Ridley Scott.
Are we doing some plugs?
Yeah, so let's do some plugs before we finish, because we might as well.
Because I've always got
Chris,
something to plug.
You always do. So off you go.
Well, so my podcast, The Book at the End of the Shelf, finished its first series. The finale was
Very good.
A Year and a Day.
Very good.
And that is being adapted for the stage. It's got 4 previews coming up in May and June across Norfolk and London. And then we're headed to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival for 2 weeks, where I'll be doing the show and hopefully getting some more tour dates afterwards. I've already got one tour date after that lined up. So yeah, follow Raising Cane Productions to find out more about A Year and a Day. You liked it, didn't you?
I did.
It's
I
quite
wanted
sad, isn't it?
Not to like it, but no, it is genuinely brilliant. And again, you come out of. I think the rhyming is a lot less. As I say, the rhyming wasn't really a problem for me in the other ones. I got over it very quickly, but it's a lot less. I don't know, obvious in this, because you're talking as a character rather than like talking as a storyteller. You really don't really notice it, and especially because you've got a different voice and you use your Irish, which is very good. It is very good.
So it's about a man called Nathan who gets cursed and he skips forward in time a year and a day. So he only has one day, then he falls asleep and a year and a day has passed. And so it's about his kind of like interactions with his family and all the shit he causes them for being away. More so in the stage play than the audio version. We've got like a strong like kind of crime storyline in it. So
yeah, I'm interested to see what you do with the longer version, because I think the short one was fantastic.
Thank you.
Oh, why am I being nice to you again?
Have you got anything to plug? Right, so
well, obviously the show that we're doing in which will,
of course,
yeah.
Sorry, my other plug.
Well, no, it's your show. It's your show.
Please talk about it. Talk about it.
Talk about your
Tell
show.
me why it's great.
Well, because I'm in it. I'm the main plug of it, really. No, it's Jack Fisher.
Who Rafe Bird unfortunately lost out to.
Oh, sorry, Rafe. But yeah,
I'm
no,
sorry, I'm just baffled by that. I'm
yeah,
baffled.
that's so weird.
Such a small world.
So we have Last Shot and Confess, which is touring once again. It was in October. It's touring again in March. This is again with Chris's company, Raising Cane Productions. He just doesn't stop. So we're touring at 8 different venues. I don't think you can either. I can't see off the top of my head all of them.
Of course I can.
Okay, go on then. Go on.
We're starting at Clyde Village Hall. We're going to Southwold Arts Centre. We're then going to Hoverton Village Hall, Old Buckingham Village Hall, Munford Village Hall, Brancaster Village Hall. We're going to St George's Theatre in Great Yarmouth, and then we're finishing off at Freckenham Village Hall.
Well done, good sir. Well done. So we're doing all of that. Very much looking forward to that. And then I'm also in a musical called Steam at the Wells Maltings. So more on that in future episodes as we get closer. That's not till the beginning of April, so that'll be after the tour with Raising Cane Productions. Please come and see these. I think we've done a lot of work on specifically on Last Shot and Confess, and we had a really good reception in October, and I hope we continue to in March. And we love doing it. It's an absolute pleasure.
Fantastic. Thank you for listening. I've got to do a song, haven't I?
Yeah,
I genuinely haven't thought of anything.
Here we go.
To
This
make
is
up something.
really going to test your talent or lack
my
of.
God.
Do you need a second?
No.
Okay. Okay. And here to Chris, Satan Clark for our final song. Goodbye.
Callum likes Wes Anderson. His films are really strange. I can't get my head around them. They keep playing on my brain.
Oh, that was brilliant.
All the chords are wrong, but
Thank you
live
very much.
in concert for you.
And goodbye.
Bye-bye.